Hi everyone. Welcome to English Story School. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to rise above their circumstances, while others are left behind, stuck in the same place day after day? What if I told you that the key to your success isn't talent, luck, or connections? It's one simple choice. The choice to be ruthless or to be forgotten. Chapter 1. The choice we all face. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, the wind whipping your face as you gaze down at the vast ocean beneath. The waves crash against the rocks far below, sending a mist of salt water into the air. You feel the cool breeze carrying whispers of doubt, of fear. You've come so far, fought so hard, and sacrificed so much, but the finish line still feels like a distant dream. Every step forward feels like you're pushing against the weight of the world. And then there it is, the voice, that nagging whisper inside your head. It starts soft, almost comforting at first. Maybe it's time to turn back. Maybe you've done enough. Maybe it's okay to rest. It's too much. You're too tired. You're not strong enough. It's the voice of weakness, the voice of self-doubt that rises every time you're about to make the toughest decision of your life. But what if, in that moment, you chose to shut that voice down? What if, instead of succumbing to its whispers, you told it to shut up? What if you decided, once and for all, that weakness is not an option? What if you jumped? What if you push yourself past the limit? Not because it's easy, but because it's the only way to achieve greatness. What if you looked at that cliff, that deep, overwhelming fear, and said, I'm going to take this leap because there is no other choice. Weakness is a choice, and I refuse to choose it. That's the first choice we all face every single day. The decision to push past our fears, our doubts, our insecurities, and our comfort zones. To embrace the grind, to confront the hard truth that nothing worth having comes easily. That success is not about finding the easiest path, but about making the hardest path your own. The real power lies not in avoiding pain, but in choosing to face it head on, in spite of the voices telling you to stop. In those moments of uncertainty, when you stand at the edge of something terrifying and unknown, that's when your true character is tested. The world doesn't need more people who are willing to play it safe. The world needs those who are willing to look at their fears, stare them down, and say, I'm not afraid of you. I've got bigger things to do. I've got dreams to chase, and no amount of fear is going to stop me. It's easy to get comfortable, to stay in the place that feels safe. We all do it. We all build walls around ourselves, convinced that staying within our safe space is the right thing to do. But deep down, we know safety doesn't build anything. Comfort doesn't create greatness. To build something extraordinary, you need to be willing to throw yourself into the unknown. You need to step outside the bubble, the cage, the walls you've built, and leap into the chaos of growth and transformation. The real decision is not about what's easy. It's about whether you'll push yourself to go beyond what you think you can do. Will you push yourself when everyone else says it's too much? Will you keep going when the odds are stacked against you? Will you keep fighting when everything inside you is screaming to quit? I want you to think about a moment in your life when you felt like giving up. It could be a time when the weight of your dreams, your responsibilities, and your failures seemed too much to carry. Maybe you felt like you didn't have the strength to keep going, or maybe you thought that the goal wasn't worth it anymore. But here's the thing. You didn't give up. You made it through that moment. And why? Because deep inside, there was a spark of something stronger than your doubts. There was a fire that refused to die, no matter how hard things got. This is the same fire that drives the ones who make it, the ones who break through, the ones who choose to rise, even when life tells them to fall. They choose to be relentless. They choose to be ruthless in their pursuit of their dreams. And they don't stop. Not when it gets hard. Not when the world tells them it's not possible. not when the voices inside their head tell them to turn back. It's a hard truth. Life isn't fair. The odds aren't always in your favor. And there will always be someone, somewhere, telling you that you're not good enough, that you're too weak, that you'll never make it. But that's the moment when the choice is yours. Will you listen to them? Or will you turn that voice off and make your own reality? Think of the people you admire the most, those who have done extraordinary things, who have risen against all odds. Do you think they didn't feel fear? Do you think they didn't have moments when they questioned themselves? Of course they did. The difference is that they didn't let those moments define them. They didn't allow weakness to control their actions. They made the choice to keep going. Every single day, they chose to be ruthless. And that's what you need to do too. When the voices of doubt arise, when the road gets tough, and when everyone around you says you can't, you have to be the one who says, "Watch me." You have to be the one who chooses to step into the discomfort, into the unknown, into the pain, because that's where growth happens. That's where transformation begins. So ask yourself, when you stand at the edge of your own cliff, with everything to lose and everything to gain, what will you choose? Will you let weakness decide your fate, or will you be ruthless enough to decide your own destiny? This is the decision we all face. Every day, the choice to step forward, to push past the pain, to face the uncertainty head on and say, "I'm not just going to survive this, I'm going to conquer it." Remember, weakness is not something that happens to you. It's a choice, and you can choose to be ruthless, relentless, and unstoppable, or you can choose to be forgotten. So what will it be? Chapter 2, The Rise of the Relentless. There's a story of a man named Alex, a man who grew up with nothing, absolutely nothing. He was born into a world that seemed determined to crush his spirit from the very start. Raised in a small, run-down neighborhood where opportunities were as rare as a clean street corner, Alex watched as everyone around him stayed, trapped in a cycle of mediocrity and failure. It was the kind of place where dreams were not just dismissed, they were actively buried beneath the weight of hardship and despair. But Alex, from the moment he could understand the world around him, made a vow to himself. He would not be like them. He could have easily followed the path laid out for him. He could have let the world's expectations shape him. After all, what did he have? No money, no access to education, no guidance from those who knew better. But instead of allowing his circumstances to define him, Alex made a powerful decision. He would shape himself. He was determined to rewrite his story, to carve his own path out of the rubble of the life that was handed to him. Every morning, when the world was still asleep, Alex was already up. It wasn't easy. The neighborhood was quiet at this time, but not because people were dreaming of greatness. No, the silence was a reflection of resignation. People were either too tired or too broken to rise. But Alex? He had a different fire burning inside him. Before dawn, while others slept in the warmth of their beds, Alex was outside, running along the cracked, uneven streets. His sneakers were worn out, barely held together, but he didn't care. Running wasn't just exercise for Alex. It was his way of escaping, of fighting back against a world that wanted to hold him down. His body was tired, his muscles screaming with every step, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Every drop of sweat, every aching breath, was a reminder that he was choosing to fight, choosing to push further than anyone thought he could. But running wasn't all Alex did. No, he knew that his body alone wouldn't take him where he wanted to go. He needed to train his mind, too. So, when he wasn't running or working odd jobs to make ends meet, he was studying. Books, old, borrowed, and sometimes barely legible, became his escape. When others were content to watch TV or waste time, Alex was devouring knowledge. His circumstances didn't allow him the privilege of expensive tutors or the best learning materials, but it didn't matter. What Alex had was a relentless attitude. While most people saw obstacles, Alex saw opportunities. He didn't have the best resources, the most impressive mentors, or the luxury of having a plan laid out for him. What he had was grit, the kind of raw determination that couldn't be bought, the kind that no one could take away from him. He was ruthless with his time. Every moment was either an investment in his future or a waste. There was no in-between. He didn't spend time on things that didn't matter. He didn't get distracted by fleeting pleasures. His goals were clear, and nothing, absolutely nothing, would stop him from achieving them. His days were long, exhausting, and filled with struggles most people couldn't even begin to imagine. But through it all, Alex never wavered. Each morning, the alarm would ring, and he would be out of bed before the first ray of sunlight peeked through the blinds. The grind became his way of life. His friends called him crazy. "You're pushing too hard," they would say. But Alex didn't care. He wasn't chasing comfort. He was chasing greatness. And greatness, as he knew well, never comes from playing it safe. It comes from pushing past your limits over and over again until you break through to the other side. And then, after years of preparation, of relentless effort, of sleepless nights and endless sacrifices, Alex got an opportunity. It came out of nowhere, but when it did, he was ready. The opportunity wasn't handed to him on a silver platter. No, it was more like a test, one that would challenge him to his very core. The opportunity was a high-stakes competition, a chance to prove himself on a grand scale, to step into the arena where the top dogs played. It wasn't just a competition, it was a battlefield, the kind that broke people, the kind that pushed you to the edge of your physical, mental, and emotional limits. Alex knew this was his moment, but he also knew that this was no guarantee of success. He could fail. In fact, failure was a real possibility. But Alex didn't back down. There was no room for fear anymore. There was no time for doubt. There was only one choice. He would embrace the pain, the struggle, and the grind. The first day of the competition was nothing like Alex had imagined. The pressure was suffocating. Every move he made, every decision was scrutinized. The weight of his dreams, his hopes, and his years of preparation felt heavier than ever. The other competitors were good, really good. Some were even better than him. They had resources, they had connections, they had advantages Alex could only dream of. But what Alex had that they didn't was an unbreakable resolve. Each day of the competition pushed him further. Every mistake, every misstep felt like it could be his undoing. The doubts crept in, whispering in the back of his mind. "You're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You should quit now and save yourself the embarrassment." But Alex pushed on. He was too far in. Quitting was never an option. He didn't come this far to stop now. As the competition wore on, Alex's body began to betray him. He was exhausted, barely able to keep his eyes open at times. His hands trembled, his knees ached, and his confidence wavered. But still, he pushed forward, refusing to let the pain dictate his fate. He remembered all the sacrifices, all the mornings before dawn, all the times he had to choose between what was easy and what was right. This was the culmination of everything he had worked for. And when the final day arrived, when the dust settled and the results were in, Alex stood victorious. He had won, not just the competition, but the life he had fought for. From a kid with nothing to his name, Alex had risen to the top. But it wasn't just about the victory. It was about everything he had overcome to get there. Every drop of sweat, every ounce of pain, every moment of doubt had been worth it. Why did he win? Because he chose to be ruthless when it mattered. He chose to embrace the struggle, to face the impossible, to keep going when everyone else would have stopped. He was relentless in his pursuit of his dreams. And that's what made the difference. Alex's story isn't just his. It's a story that belongs to anyone willing to choose to be relentless. It's a story that belongs to anyone who refuses to be held back by circumstances, by fear, by the opinions of others. It's a story that belongs to you, if you're willing to rise above the noise and embrace the grind. Chapter 3: The Moment of Weakness. Not every story is a smooth ride. Even the most relentless, the most determined, the hardest working individuals are going to hit moments where they feel like they've reached their breaking point. And even though Alex had already proven time and time again that he was willing to push through every obstacle, there was one moment that almost broke him. It was the moment when weakness, in its most insidious form, came knocking at his door. Imagine this. After years of sacrifice, after every drop of sweat, every early morning, every sacrifice, Alex found himself facing the unimaginable. He had trained for months, no, years, preparing for a major event that could elevate him even further, that could cement his place at the top. This wasn't just any competition. It was the event that would determine whether all his struggles had meant something. But the path to it was anything but easy. His body, once invincible in his eyes, was beginning to betray him. Injuries started to pile up. His knees ached with every step. His shoulders felt as if they were about to collapse under the weight of years of grueling training. Every part of his body screamed at him to stop. But he pushed forward. He had no choice. Or so he thought, because one morning, after yet another sleepless night, Alex woke up, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel the fire in his chest. Instead, all he felt was the weight of exhaustion, the mental fatigue, the pain. It was as if the universe itself had conspired to bring him to the edge of defeat. For a moment, it was as if everything he had worked for, everything he had sacrificed, had amounted to nothing. He found himself questioning whether it was worth it anymore. Could he keep going? Should he keep going? The doubts flooded in, faster than he could silence them. He thought about his injuries, about how much pain he was in. He thought about the things he had missed, the birthdays, the relationships, the moments of peace that other people took for granted. Was this what it was all for? The crushing thought that maybe he had pushed too hard, maybe he had given too much, and now it was all slipping away, gripped him like a vice. Alex lay on his bed that night, staring up at the ceiling, and for the first time in years, he considered quitting. It wasn't about fear of failure anymore. It wasn't even about the competition. It was about the very essence of who he was. Was he just a machine, built to grind until it couldn't go anymore? What if all of this, all of his sacrifices, wasn't enough? What if the dream he had been chasing for so long was just too far out of reach? But then something happened, something that Alex hadn't expected. In that moment of weakness, when everything inside him told him to stop, to give up, to walk away, he heard a voice. It wasn't loud, but it was clear. It was a voice that had been building inside him for years, growing stronger with every struggle, with every challenge he overcame. It was the voice of resilience, the voice that told him that weakness is a choice. "Is this who you are?" the voice asked. "Are you really going to let pain decide your future? Are you really going to let fear take control when you've come this far? Or will you rise above this? Will you choose to fight?" That question struck him like a lightning bolt. It hit him deep in his soul, and suddenly the pain, the exhaustion, the doubt all seemed to fade into the background. He wasn't just fighting against his body. He wasn't just fighting against the obstacles. He was fighting against the idea of weakness itself. In that moment, Alex made a decision that would define him and ultimately shape his future. He said to himself, with an iron will that shook off all the doubt, "Weakness is a choice, and I refuse to be defined by it." He didn't just say it, he meant it. He realized that weakness wasn't some external force that could overtake him. It wasn't something that could defeat him unless he allowed it to. Weakness was a mindset, a decision. A choice. And he wasn't going to choose it. Not now. Not ever. Alex stood up from his bed, feeling the pain in his body like never before, but with a renewed sense of purpose. He made his way to the training grounds, his mind set on one goal: to prove to himself that he could rise, even when everything inside him was telling him to fall. He didn't know if he would win the upcoming event. He didn't know if his body could handle the strain, but he did know one thing. He would give everything he had, no matter what. The next morning, he woke up before dawn, like he always did. But this time, it wasn't just routine. This time, it was a declaration. He pushed through the soreness in his body, the heavy fog of exhaustion clouding his mind, and stepped onto the track, one foot after the other. He chose to fight, and that choice, more than anything else, was the turning point. He didn't get immediate results. His body didn't instantly heal, and the pain didn't vanish. But he kept going. Every step, every session was a reminder that he had control over his mind, that he had control over his actions, no matter how much the world tried to break him. Weakness was not his to claim. Alex's moment of weakness wasn't the end of his story. It was just a chapter. It was a test. It was a crucible that forged him into something stronger, something more unstoppable. He realized that we all face moments like these, moments when the weight of our struggles becomes too much. But those moments are not the end of the road. They're just the beginning of the next phase of our journey. In the end, Alex didn't just push through the pain, he embraced it. He understood that weakness only becomes a defining factor when you choose to surrender to it. He made the bold decision to rise above it, to choose strength in the face of adversity. And in doing so, he proved that we are not defined by our moments of weakness, but by our ability to rise from them. This wasn't just a victory of the body. This was a victory of the mind, the spirit, and the relentless determination to never give up. Chapter 4. The Ruthless Power of Discipline. What's the real difference between those who succeed and those who don't? It's not raw talent. It's not luck or chance. It's discipline. Think about it for a second. There are thousands of people out there who have the same potential, the same resources, the same dreams. But the one thing that separates the dreamers from the achievers, the winners from the losers, is discipline. It's the invisible force that pushes you forward when everything else pulls you back. It's the unrelenting, relentless pursuit of your goals. No matter how many times you fall, no matter how many times the world tells you that you can't. Discipline is the weapon that turns dreams into reality. It's not some magic formula or hidden trick. It's the simple, yet powerful decision to do what others aren't willing to do, to show up even when you don't feel like it, and to keep going when every part of you wants to quit. Let me introduce you to someone who embodies this power of discipline, someone who chose to be ruthless in their pursuit of success. His name is Jake. Jake isn't a genius. He doesn't have some extraordinary natural talent. He's not the most charismatic guy in the room. But he has one thing that most people lack: discipline. Every day, Jake's routine is the same. And it's not because he's some robot following a rigid schedule. It's because he's been conditioned to see discipline as the fuel that keeps his fire burning. Jake wakes up at 4 a.m. every single day. It doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing, or if he only got 4 hours of sleep. He wakes up, hits the gym, then heads to work on his business. He knows that every hour counts, and every minute spent lazily or aimlessly is a minute wasted. After his workout, Jake doesn't go home to rest. No, he hits the books. He reads, learns, watches seminars, whatever it takes to sharpen his skills. His mind is a sponge, absorbing knowledge like it's his job, because in his mind it is his job. Most people sleep in, hit the snooze button, or spend their mornings scrolling through their phones. But Jake, he's out there grinding. Late at night, While most of his friends are out having fun or winding down, Jake is still working. He's writing, refining his plans, practicing his craft. He's doing what others won't, what others can't. He's building the future that most people only dream about, while they're distracted by short-term pleasures. Jake is ruthless in his pursuit of success, and discipline is his sword. There's a quote I love: "Success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out." That's what discipline is all about. It's not about having an explosive moment of success or a one-time achievement. It's about showing up every day, putting in the work, even when you don't feel like it, even when no one is watching. The real power of discipline lies in its consistency. Jake's success didn't come from one monumental decision or one lucky break. It came from every small, everyday choice he made. It came from the countless hours no one saw, the late nights spent alone, the sacrifices no one noticed. It was the consistency of his actions that made the difference. Jake didn't need to be the smartest guy in the room. What mattered most was how many days he was willing to grind, how many steps he was willing to take toward his goals, even when the road was tough and the rewards were far off. Imagine for a moment that you could develop this level of discipline in your own life. What would change? Imagine waking up every day, not hoping for success, but demanding it. Imagine making it a non-negotiable part of your life to work toward your dreams every single day, even when you don't feel like it, even when it feels impossible. Imagine how unstoppable you would be. It doesn't matter if your dreams are big or small. The power of discipline works the same way for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're trying to build a business, get in the best shape of your life, learn a new skill, or become the best in your field. The principles of discipline remain unchanged. It's about doing what others won't do. It's about putting in the work when no one's looking. It's about staying hungry, staying focused, and never settling for anything less than your best. Here's the harsh truth. Most people won't make it. Not because they can't, but because they won't be disciplined enough to stick with it when it gets hard. Most people give up when the results don't come fast enough, when the sacrifices feel too heavy, when the pain of grinding is too much. But if you can develop the discipline to keep going, to keep showing up, even when the world seems to be falling apart, you will win. Discipline is the difference between who you are today and who you could be tomorrow. It's the bridge between your dreams and your reality. And you have the power to build it, brick by brick, day by day. Think about it. What's stopping you from committing to that level of discipline? What's holding you back from waking up every day with the unshakable belief that today is another step toward your success? It's not the world that's stopping you. It's you. If you want to succeed, if you want to change your life, if you want to see real results, you have to be ruthless with your time, with your energy, with your goals. You have to be relentless in your pursuit. And most importantly, you have to make discipline your greatest ally. The difference between where you are right now and where you want to be is a commitment to discipline. It's the ability to push through, to refuse to let excuses dictate your actions. Discipline is the true game changer. It's the unseen force that moves mountains and makes dreams come true. So, are you ready to make discipline your weapon? Chapter 5. The Final Decision, Ruthless or Forgotten. As we reach the final chapter of this journey, I want to ask you one last question. One that's not just about your success, but about your legacy. When the curtain falls on your life, when your time comes to an end and you look back, how will you be remembered? Will you be remembered for your resilience in the face of adversity? Will you be remembered for your ruthless pursuit of greatness, for never backing down, for never letting weakness take hold of you? Or will you be forgotten? Here's the truth. We all have a limited amount of time on this earth. Time doesn't care how hard you worked, how much you struggled, or how many battles you fought. The world doesn't care about your struggles. It only remembers those who made the choice to be ruthless, those who refused to settle, those who embraced pain as a stepping stone to greatness. You see, weakness is not something that just happens to you. It's a decision, a choice. You get to decide whether you'll rise above it or let it pull you under. No one can force you into weakness. No one can force you to stop. Weakness only has power over you if you allow it to. We've all faced difficult times. We've all had moments where it felt easier to give up, to take the path of least resistance, to let the weight of the world crush us into submission. But it's in those moments that you have the greatest opportunity to define who you are. You have to decide now. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Will you choose to be ruthless? Will you choose to rise above the pain, above the doubt, and above the fear? Or will you let life dictate your path and allow weakness to take root? The truth is, the world doesn't care about your struggle. It doesn't care about the obstacles you've faced, the pain you've endured, or the countless hours you've put into chasing your dreams. What the world remembers is what you chose to do with that struggle. What the world remembers is how ruthless you were in your pursuit of greatness. The world remembers those who refuse to be defeated. If you want to leave a legacy, if you want to make a real impact, you have to be ruthless. Ruthless in your work ethic, ruthless in your refusal to settle for mediocrity, ruthless in your commitment to success, no matter the cost. You have to embrace the grind, the discomfort, the pain, because that's the only way to rise to the top. But here's the thing, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers or have it all figured out. The choice isn't about being flawless. The choice is about deciding to never give up. It's about never accepting defeat, no matter how many times life tries to knock you down. The most important thing is that you make the decision to be ruthless, to keep going when others stop. So today, right now, make the decision. Choose to be ruthless. Choose to rise above the noise, the distractions, the pain, and the doubt. Choose to be remembered as someone who didn't back down, someone who refused to be forgotten. This is the moment where your future is shaped. This is where the path you take is determined. Will you let fear dictate your actions? Or will you let ruthlessness be your guide? With that said, thank you for watching. And until next time, remember, weakness is a choice, and only the ruthless rise above.